Hello and welcome to Guides.Global. My name is John Howell and I'm the editor. With me I have Başak Yıldız Orkun, who is a lawyer working in Bodrum in Turkey. Başak, thank you for coming.
Hi, John.
In this video, which is really quite a complicated and lengthy video, we're going to deal with the whole process of dealing with disputes, dealing with court cases, solving legal problems. So I suppose we need to start off by saying that this video is split into various parts. So if you have come into part 3 or part 4 or part 5, then it's probably a good idea to go and find part 1 and follow the thing through logically, otherwise you're likely to get mighty confused. Start at the beginning. Most people don't intend to get involved in disputes when they enter into an agreement. It's something that just happens.
Correct.
There are, of course, some people who are crooks who never intend to honour their obligations anyway, and they are quite happy for a dispute to arise, but they're very few and far between. So how can we help avoid disputes arising in the first place? What can we do to stop it happening?
I would say if there is a relation between two parties, let's imagine this is like a commercial relation. I think the facts and the terms and conditions of this relation should be covered with a binding legal written contract, which makes it easier for the parties to know their liabilities and their responsibilities according to the contract.
A contract that's well written, that's clear, and that covers all the things that are likely to happen. You can never have absolutely everything covered in the contract, because otherwise it'll be 1,000 pages long. But the things that you can foresee as being likely should be covered in the contract.
Correct. So the contract will be the start about the having far from a dispute in the future. But of course, if the parties are in dispute, then we have to look for alternative ways.
But even before we get to the position of preparing a clear contract, I guess you could say that the most important thing to avoid disputes is to deal with good people. If you're going to deal with crooks, you will have problems. And spend a bit of time getting to know the people you're going to deal with, particularly if it's a big business transaction, and make sure that you're comfortable with them, that they seem to be on the same page as you are in terms of the way you're thinking, and a little bit of time invested there can save a huge amount of time and money later on.
Yeah, I would agree so, because the first thing is both parties has to be requiring the same protection, has to be requiring the same procedure to be followed. I mean, imagine two parties, one of them is just insistent on just doing business on trust, when the other party is doing the business properly as per the legal requirements. So this is a conflict in the beginning.
Yes.
So both parties needs to be, as you mentioned, should be at the same level of expectation in the business.
And that's particularly relevant, I think, in construction contracts, where you can have a constructor who is trying to do it as cheaply as possible, and the client who wants the highest quality possible. Well, that's always going to end in a dispute. You've got to be clear about what it is you're trying to achieve.
And it has to be fair.
Fair.
I think the most important part with the contract, if both parties knows that the condition in the contract is fair, so it's going to be fair before any party, like a courts or like in case of a dispute. I would say that fairness is very important.
Now, in international contracts, and I know you do a lot of international work, there's an extra problem, isn't there? Because the parties may be met, they've signed a contract, but now one of them is in the United States and the other one's in Turkey, and that's 5,000 miles away.
Yeah.
And they may never meet again.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with keeping people in contact and dealing with day-to-day problems that emerge in a contract?
If it's like a business contract, basically they are doing some business together, so they are keeping their day-to-day basis like a contact. But on the other hand, if the one party has given some like a work or job to another party and just expecting it to be happened, obviously there might be a gap of communication between parties. The email is really life-saving nowadays,
yes.
because if you put the correct emails into the contract, in terms of like a dispute, it might be a little bit debatable about the in terms of delivery of the letter or any notification. But you can just say that the parties have a proper email address and to communicate about the matters like born from the contract.
But also to use email on a regular basis, just so that there is some personal contact. So that even if the email is just saying, hello, how are things going, haven't heard from you for 2 weeks, just to maintain some sort of personal commitment from the other party.
Yeah, I believe so. I think it will just keep the relation alive.
And I guess even better than email, just pick up the telephone occasionally. We tend to forget about the telephone in these modern worlds of texting and emails. Just pick up the phone and talk to the person and say, how's it going? Are there any problems? And it's much more difficult to have a big argument with someone you're talking to on a regular basis.
Yeah, with regards to telephone, of course, day-to-day basis, like keeping the communication, I think it is the best way because it is very like a personal thing. But on the other hand, if we are talking about the contract, if some party is requiring something due to the contract, we would rather to have it like in writing.
Of course.
So the keeping the record is always the best.
When you get to the formal parts of keeping a record of what's been said, then it has to be in writing.
Yeah.
But at a preserving of relationships level, the telephone works beautifully.
Exactly.
Turks, I think, are very personal people, aren't they? A Turkish person in a business relationship with another person here in Turkey would expect some sort of regular contact.
Yeah, they would. Because they keep in touch somehow. If they are doing a business, this is a partnership. So.
Exactly, precisely.
Yeah.
The contract is seen as a joint venture between the two people concerned, rather than a purely commercial transaction.
Yeah.
Okay, so do what we can to avoid problems arising in the first place, and I know there are a number of other suggestions in your guide.